So, this is Grandpa Keller, and I'm going to be asking him questions about World War II. So my first question is, how old were you when World War II started?
I was 19.
And were you drafted or did you volunteer?
I volunteered.
Okay. And what job did you have during World War II?
I was a hangar chief.
Right. And do certain movies today represent what really happened during World War II?
Well, I've seen a few of them that have. That one with B-24 was written by, I got the book here anyway. It happened in the Pacific, but the material about the airplane was correct. A lot of times Hollywood puts things in there that's not exactly right, but the name of that book, I forget the name of it here.
Do you want me to look?
Let's see.
Churchill.
Yeah,
Unbroken.
that's an Unbroken.
So like the movie that recently came out?
Yeah, the book is very authentic, and the movie, I guess, is pretty compatible to it. So,
Okay. Were you assigned to fight the Japanese or the Germans?
the Germans,
Do you think the U.S. was justified to drop the atom bombs on Japan?
I do.
And where were you during D-Day?
I was in England.
Do you think FDR handled World War II the best way he could?
No, I didn't. At the early part of the war, when the draft began, FDR said none of our mother's sons will step their foot on foreign soil without 6 months of training, and that was not true because I was only in a service a little over a month, and I was already in England in a battle theater.
Should the USA have joined the war sooner to help the Allies earlier? And if we did, do you think that that would have prevented Pearl Harbor?
No. No. According to everything the history tells us, FDR and the government had undercover meetings with the Japanese people, and they knew that war and it was going to happen. I don't think they knew exactly it was going to happen like Pearl Harbor, but it was evidence that we were going to get in that battle. We were forced into it by Pearl Harbor, of course, but we aided in the Allies, our allies in it. The Canadian, a lot of the American young men went up to Canada and joined the Canadian Army, and they flew combat airplanes for England even before the United States got into the war.
What weapon were you issued during World War II?
We all had carbines. Because I was a non-com, I had a 45 on the hip.
How long were you in basic training?
24 hours.
It's a lot shorter than I thought it would be. How was the food quality during this time?
Well, the food when you were in the United States was great, but when we got in overseas in the combat areas, the German U-boats sank so many of our supply ships that we were limited in our mess hall. Sometimes we had powdered eggs and powdered milk and big cans of grapefruit juice, which we called battery acid because it was unsweetened. But whenever the food was available, they had good cooks. In fact, the chef in our mess hall at the one base I was at was the chief chef of the Waldorf Astoria, during his civilian life before he went in the service. So he put up fancy signs on a blackboard, like using all these French terms and everything, and it's still powdered eggs, and it was still, we had these little British cabbages. Then he mixed with cheese. We had that. That was we called them hedge apples.
How was your reaction to the German and Japanese? Like, what was your reaction to the German and Japanese surrender?
My reaction?
Yes.
Well, of course, everyone was anxious to get the war over with. We'd lost so many lives and so much property and everything. So, it just one of those things that had to happen. You had to stop the war. We just couldn't afford to lose any more lives, and it's ridiculous that the effort that was put forth to do that. In the Japanese area there, we were flying sorties of over 230 B-29s every day on missions bombing Japan, and those people just weren't going to give up. They were hiding in those islands around Japan. They were hiding in caves and everything, and the invasion was just had to happen because that was the only way they were going to stop it. And when Harry Truman decided to drop that atom bomb, that took care of the whole thing. And of course, it took two of them before they quit anyway. The first one, in Nagasaki, killed a lot of people, and normal people would have given up then, but the Japanese still didn't. So of course, they had to drop the second.
So you think Harry Truman was justified to drop the bombs?
Yes, I do. He saved many lives by doing so. The invasion of Japan would have cost over 1 million lives, not only on our side, but on their side also.
And how did the capture of Iwo Jima affect the morale of everyone?
Well, the capture of Iwo Jima was just only one of many islands that needed to be captured because we had to have bases of operation. By us controlling the islands, we had air bases that we could fly our aircraft in to bomb the Japanese and to
Have the plane safely return? Is that what you're...
well, we had to have something that was in range, and of course those islands were in range, and of course Iwo Jima was one of the large islands, but there was many more that had the same problem. Because the Japanese had runways, they had aircraft stuff that they were using too, but their equipment was inferior to ours when it come right down to it. The nuts and bolts and tin and metal that when I was a kid, I remember in school they were sending all that junk to Japan. Japan was building up a war effort then. That was back in the early 30s, before we ever got into the war, or before the war ever started. So.
And were you sent home right after the war was over?
No. I flew home in our outfit. We were going to